Hey everyone, how y'all doing?
Pretty good.
Sophie,
How
you
are
look
you?
tired.
Yeah, man. Tired.
What?
Did you look tired?
Me?
Yeah, you just kind of had your hand down, like
Well, yeah, I'm tired.
I feel it. I feel it. It's, I think we're getting into what's usually called the quote unquote dog days of summer, where summer's just been so hot, persistent. This year, you mix in all the other things going on with the pandemic. It can be exhausting physically, emotionally. Takes its tolls different ways. So let me see. Got a few more of our friends that I'm admitting and waiting to see if we have our guest speaker join us shortly. Her name is Carissa. I don't think she's with us yet, which is good because it gives us a moment to discuss the master plan. Okay, let me go ahead and share this with you. Okay, so on Gaucho Space, you go down, the master plan assignment is available now as a PDF. So once you open it, this is what it gives you, right? So for this assignment, I want you to record a short video detailing what your plans are for the future.
The door that locks itself.
So remember, we discussed vision boards, PowerPoint slides if you'd like. Other people have other creative ideas to also go by. So I understand the complications of technology, and I don't want to hinder you from being able to submit. So if you're not going to use PowerPoint slides, if you're not going to do anything interactive like that, that's completely fine. You can just write it out on a paper and say year 1, year 3, year 5, and these are your plans. If you choose to do like a cutout, like magazine cover or different pictures from different spots, that's fine too. You can download, print them out, put them on your vision board. What I'm saying is it can be as involved as you want it to be. I just want a visual of what that future plan for you is, right?
Could it be a collage?
Yes, it's exactly intended for you to create. So vision board is a form of a collage where you can create what you're going um, to envision as your goal for like the next year. And you can just do like cutouts. You can do one of those copy paste things if you're doing it digitally on your computer. So yes, you can. Right. So the purpose of the video is twofold. One, right, it's a means to justify your passing grade, of course. See. Could you all put yourselves on mute, please? I'm catching a little bit of feedback as I'm trying to talk. Thank you. Okay, that's better. So I want you to have this video at any time. That way later on, as you're going through the school year, one of the things that you'll notice is if you refer to this video, then it's kind of like a way for you to kind of recenter yourself so you can focus again. If you feel as though, man, I lost sight of kind of where I was headed, what the path was, this video is also intended to kind of keep you honest in that way, right? It's a good form of accountability in a good way, right? Like not in a critical way. Like this is where you set yourself out to be in 1 year, in 3 years, in 5 years. And so I've given you these kind of guiding questions for you to look at as you plan out your video presentation. And so, the first question: what do you plan to do as a transfer student at UCSB? What types of experiences are you looking forward to exploring personally, academically, professionally in your development? And what will be your strategy for success? And the last one is, how will these steps help prepare you for your life after UCSB? You know, including a discussion on graduate school or career. I know everybody has different goals in mind. And so, you know, what are these plans doing to help line you up for that? Give me one quick second. I'm looking at the chat. Yes, if you make a vision board of your goals, I want you to upload that short video because it gives the explanation of what's on your vision board, right? So if it's just a picture that you upload, it leaves a lot out to interpretation. So it could be something quick like on your phone. Like again, it doesn't have to be a major production. Say that we just had to submit. Well, the presentation, that is a presentation, right? What you're doing is you're presenting your vision board, but people can be as creative as they want about it. I prefer to have the visuals. That's why I'm saying that you could do a PowerPoint and that would be okay. But having a visual type of a presentation is what I want here. Because again, this is something that works twofold. So I hope that answers your guys' questions for now. I did notice that we had our guest speaker pop in to join us, and I wanted to go ahead and let's see, invite her to speak with us. What I'll do is I'll go ahead and hold forum again with the master plan assignment. If we have a little bit of time on the back end, if not, we have all of Thursday to discuss that, as well as how the journals from the past kind of tie into what I'm asking you to do for your master plan. All right. But for now, what I'd like to do is invite Carissa to speak to you all about the URCA undergraduate research and creative activities section of UCSB. So, Carissa, you have the floor, and we'll go ahead and take questions for you. And after you're done speaking to the students, we can start a Q&A if it's cool with you.
Yeah, that works for me. Hi, everyone. My name is Carissa Gomez, and I work for Undergraduate Research and Creative Activities Office. So we basically do two things, or a lot of things, but I'm going to, simplify it down to two things. One is we promote undergraduate research programs, primarily through the URCA grants and the FRAP grants. What that pretty much means is that we help connect students to research opportunities on campus, help connect students to professors who are doing research. That way, undergraduates like yourselves can get research experience as well. And then the other half of what we do is facilitate academic internship programs. So those are like programs like UC DC and UC Sacramento. And then we'll go into what those things mean right now. Do I have sharing capabilities if I wanted to share my screen? Okay. All right. So now I can present. All right, so starting with this intro, you've already heard from me. Another member of our office is our faculty director, Professor Ann Charity Hudley. So when things go back to normal, because we are hopeful that that'll be sooner rather than later, when you come into our office, you'll be seeing our two faces, and just so you can get familiar with them. And Ann Charity Headley works as the North Hall Endowed Chair for Linguistics, but then she's also part-time faculty director at URCA. And she's super friendly. So if you ever wanted to talk to her as well, she would probably really, really like that. So what is research? I always like to start with this question because I feel like it's such a broad question, but it's also really important to start with this very broad question. What is research? So can somebody give me an example or their definition of what they think research is? And there are no right or wrong answers.
Quest for knowledge.
Quest for knowledge. Yeah, and we like to use this definition from the Undergraduate Research Council on Undergraduate Research. So an inquiry, investigation, or pursuit conducted by an undergraduate student that makes an original, intellectual, creative, or contribution to a discipline, area, question, challenge, or theme. That's pretty much just a wordy way of saying a quest for knowledge, right? So, and we like to use this fancy sort of definition for it. But research can look very different depending on what you're doing, and that's what we'll get into. So what are your options for research? So UCSB, there are a lot of different options for research, but for simplicity's sake, we'll break it down into 3 segments here. You can do research by assisting a faculty member or a graduate student on an existing project. So your professors are not just your teachers, they're also doing their own research. So faculty members will be doing their research, and also grad students on campus are doing their own research as well. So you have opportunities to conduct research by assisting those people. You can also work on projects that merge your own interests with those of faculty members or graduate students. So like I said, they're already working on their own projects, but you might have an idea or might be working on a project that is really similar to an idea that they're working on. So you can merge your interests and work together on a project and collaborate in that way. And then you can also design or conduct an independent project under the supervision of an advisor or as part of a team. So you could be doing your own independent research project, which is what a lot of students that participate in our programs do. They are doing their own research projects. But of course, you know, it's always helpful to have the advice of a mentor or somebody who has, you know, gone through the research journey themselves. So we always encourage students that if they are doing an independent project, to find a faculty mentor or a grad student mentor to guide them through that research process. And then when you volunteer with a professor, so it's a very different experience than just, you know, sitting in a lecture room, or in this case, a Zoom room. It really helps you understand what research is about. A lot of courses at UCSB are very much rooted in theory, and that's a big part of what research is. But when you're actually doing research, you get to apply that theory to something a little more tangible, and at times it can help you really better understand your coursework. It can also help you decide if research is a good fit for you. So like I mentioned, there are different types of research. Just to name a few, you know, you could be working in a lab with chemicals and pipettes, or you could be out in the community doing community-based research. You can be, you know, interviewing people, collecting data, going out into the field and collecting soil samples. So it can look very different depending on what the project is and maybe what discipline you're going into. And then it helps you get to know the professor on a different level than in the traditional classroom interaction. Professors, they, like I said, they're doing their own research and they love their research. This is oftentimes their life work. So when you get to know them when they're doing research, it's definitely, they're very excited about it. So it really helps you get to know them on a deeper level than just them presenting at a lecture. And then it also, you can earn academic credit towards your major or degree. So by participating in research, you do have the opportunity to get units for the time that you spend doing research. It really depends on your major. So if you're interested, not major, but your discipline, each discipline kind of has different rules regarding how many hours of research equals how many number of units. So if you're interested in doing something like that, I would encourage you to speak to your department's undergraduate advisor. And volunteering with grad students, like I said, the grad students are also doing their own research, and they're a very important part of that research team. So again, reaching out to them is a good way to start getting involved with research, especially since oftentimes when you're in sections, our grad students are the ones who lead those sections. So that's a good person to add to your network and kind of ask for advice in getting started on that research journey. And then you also have the option to participate in summer research. So both on campus and off campus, UCSB has a lot of opportunities for summer research through different research groups. But then there are also opportunities across like nationwide. So usually applications for summer research start going out in or the deadline is in February or January, around there. So that's a good time if you're looking to do summer research. January, February is a good time to start research, start looking for those opportunities. This is also a good option for our busy students. I know that all of you are probably super busy. The life of a student, I don't even understand how I lived through it because it's so demanding of your time. You have your academics, you have your student organizations, there's a couple of them, and all these other things. So sometimes summer is the only or best option to do research. So it's a good time to look for that. Research benefits for you, there's a couple of them, but my favorite ones are to grow as a critical, analytical, and independent thinker. And then also, and to sharpen problem solving, reading and writing and speaking skills. And why are those my favorite? Because I feel like those skills are probably the most transferable, regardless of what your next steps are, whether it's going straight into the workforce or going into a graduate program. Using those critical analytical skills, using those, sharpening those reading and writing skills are all things that will benefit you in those next steps of life. And if you can really display that you're doing those things well, it'll definitely set you apart. Why research benefits professors? Well, they like working with you. This is a research university, a teaching university, and mentorship is a big part of that. So a lot of faculty members work with undergraduates, work with graduate students, and they like passing down their knowledge. They also learn with you. Like I mentioned before, sometimes you can merge your interests together. There's a lot of things that you can teach the professor as well, and things that you can contribute to their projects. And now for our specific initiatives. So like I mentioned before, URCA, we facilitate certain research programs like Faculty Research Assistance Program, or FRAP, and the Undergraduate Research and Creative Activities Grant, which is confirmed are both still happening this year, so yay. So FRAP, you can get involved as early as your first year. You don't need to have any prior research experience to get involved in this program, which is fantastic, and it's also a very common question that I get. So no, you don't have to have any prior research experience. If you do, fantastic, you can still participate. You can earn academic credit while serving as a research assistant, and it can help you start building that professional or academic network. So this is an example of what a FRAP entry will look like. So what you'll see is the title of the project at the top, which in this case is Google Effects. You'll see what department it's in. You'll see the professor contact information, where they're located. You'll also see a project description, so what the project is about, and then undergraduate contribution, so what you as the researcher on this team would be doing. And then it also includes any requirements, if any. So it's important to note here too that like I said, you don't have to have prior research experience. A lot of these entries don't require you to have that. but there are a few that do. And sometimes it's just prior coursework, so taking a course with that professor beforehand, just so that they know that you're maybe familiar with their work. And then who can apply? Anyone in the College of Letters and Science. So to clarify this, anyone from any college can use a directory. So whether you're in College of Creative Studies, Letters and Science, or Engineering, anyone can use the database. In terms of for the, where it says College of Letters and Science only, that's only if you want to receive credit for these actual postings or the projects that are posted here. And then students who want to get involved with research, or if you're already involved with research but want to do a different type of research, you can use this directory as well. And I want to point out here that just because that you're a certain major doesn't mean that you have to do research in your major. So you definitely can, and a lot of students do, but I want to bring up the idea of interdisciplinary research. So maybe you might be a comm major but wanting to do a research project in psych or in feminist studies or something that is not your major. That is totally possible, and yes, you can do it. Moving on to URCA. So URCA is a grant that students can apply for, and then they can get $750 towards their independent research project. These funds cover project-related expenses. This year, we will not be covering domestic travel just to comply with COVID guidelines. To qualify, a student must meet general requirements and submit and complete the application by the deadline. So this year, we have our deadline or application portal opening on October 2nd, and our deadline is November 20th. So this year, we've actually extended our application, the dates that we are receiving our application, we've extended that by about 2 weeks, just to give people a little more time, especially since things are a little different this year. We want to give people a little more time to adapt. Requirements: you need to be in good academic standing, be engaged or plan to be engaged in a research or creative project, and have a faculty mentor to supervise your project and provide a letter of support. The TSRA, so that's a Transfer Student Research Award, it is pretty much, well, not pretty much, it's exactly the same thing as the URCA grant. So you still get $750 towards your independent research project. The only difference is that this pool of money is specifically reserved for our transfer student population. So only transfer students can apply for this grant. So you, as this is transfer student class, yes. So you guys get the awesome opportunity of actually getting the chance to apply to both of these grants. You only get to apply to one, but it means you have 2 chances to apply to them. If you're hit the ground running and you're ready to go in the fall, you can apply to the URCA grant. But the great thing about this Transfer Student Research Award is that the application happens later on in the school year. So for Transfer Student Research Award, this year's deadlines aren't solidly set, but typically the application, you can submit an application between March 1st and the end of the month. So it kind of gives you a quarter and a half or so to get acclimated to the campus, start getting to know your professors, and that way, by the time the application rolls around, you have the time to submit an awesome letter of support. At the end of the year, we host the Undergraduate Research Colloquium. So that's a poster presentation session. These are just some photos from past years. So as you can see, it's pretty busy. It's a great opportunity for students who have been doing their research all year round to present it to their peers. This event is open to everyone. So we have students invite their families over, invite their friends, members of the community, employers, mentors, all that. So it's a really fun event, and it's nice, it gives students the opportunity to show off all their hard work, because research is hard work, and it gives them the opportunity to put something on their resume, get to practice their presentation skills. So yeah. And this is open to everyone as well. So everyone from all majors are welcome to sign up to present their research. And then we also host the Undergraduate Research Slam. So this is, I like to call it an intense TED Talk of sorts, or maybe even a research elevator pitch, because students have about 3 minutes and three slides, 3 minutes to present their research, which if you've talked to any researcher or anyone that's like really passionate about anything, it's a really hard thing to ask them to do, to talk about something they're super passionate about in 3 minutes. But that's what makes it a competition, right? Whoever can do that the best is able to win some cash prizes. So it's really exciting. I also know that there's a graduate level one, so they have the graduate slam, and that one's kind of done at a bigger scale. So if you get the chance to see that one's actually like really exciting as well. And for both this year, we had to do a digital colloquium just because of everything that had happened. And that may be the case depending on how things go along for the upcoming year. I'll provide the link to our website after this, but on our website, you can actually see our digital colloquium, which is basically just a gallery of posters and their abstracts. But it's a really good way to get familiar with a research poster, what that looks like. We have posters from math, life and physical science, humanities, fine arts, and social sciences. So each one of those posters kind of look a little different depending on what the discipline is. And then for the undergraduate research slam as well, we have videos of past winners or past finalists, so you can see what that looks like too. And then we also have the opportunity to do the undergraduate colloquium unbound. So this happens at the same time as the poster presentation. We understand that not all types of research can be presented in the same way. And what do I mean when I say that? So I guess the best way to explain it to you is to give you an example. We've had students in the past that display their research in a really creative way. So instead of doing a standard poster, we've had students that create like documentaries and they show them, they show a viewing of them, or students that have studied, traditional clothing from centuries past, and then they're also a theater and dance major, so they can actually create this style of dress, and then they will talk about their research while their friend models the dress. So there are different ways to display your research depending on what it is, and we definitely don't want to stifle any creativity here. So if you have a creative idea, a creative way to display your research, we totally welcome that as well. So what can you do to get involved? Go to class. So that's one simple way to get involved. Go to class, because when you're there, you're learning all these things. Your professors are always challenging you to question what it is that you're learning. At least that's what I found, and I'm also a UCSB graduate, but that's what I found from my classes, is that UCSB really challenges you to think outside the box. And if you're presented with a theory, question, well, is that right? And how to challenge that. And so when that can really inspire you to maybe research something, going to class can also, again, just very simply help you strengthen your relationship with your professors and your grad students, and that's a great way to get to know them. And like I said, professors, get to know them. Yeah, so they're going to be the biggest help. They'll serve as your mentors. They are now professors or assistant professors. They've gone through the journey that you are beginning. So they'll be great help in figuring out your next steps. TAs, same thing. They've walked the steps that you have, and so they're great people to turn to and ask for advice. Be and stay curious. When students in the past have asked me, how do I even come up with a research question? One, there are different ways to go about it, but I think the funnest way that I've been told is, question what makes you angry, or question whatever makes you passionate. So when you're angry, you're passionate, but things that make you extremely happy or things that make you extremely angry or make you extremely curious, question all those things and see how you can turn that into a research question. And explore your interests. When you're conducting research, you will be spending a lot of time doing it. And so you want to make sure that you are spending your time on something that you're actually interested in, right? So explore your interests and see how you can dive further into that. And seeking opportunities. So like I mentioned before, there are a lot of different research programs on campus. So with URCA, we have the primary ones of FRAP and URCA and TSRA. But if you step through our doors and if we don't have a program that fits your needs, we're going to be there to help you find one that does, or find an opportunity that does, or direct you to one of these programs. So I like to call this sort of the bridge to different research opportunities too. Things that you can do now, like I mentioned, going to office hours, sit in during lab meetings. And that's also a really important one, actually, sitting in during lab meetings in general. Sometimes students who don't have prior research experience, I recommend them to, still get in touch with the professor, learn about what the professor is studying, because having that background knowledge or that sort of foundational knowledge of what they're researching is really important, and it makes you look really competitive. And you can also volunteer to sit in during these meetings because, one, that shows your interest in the subject, and it shows that you're willing to learn more about it while, while not necessarily having a role, but it could lead to you having a role in the future. All right. And then I can quickly go through our UCDC and UCCS programs. So just to clarify, we've just covered the research portion of URCA, and now we're going to move on to the academic internship part. I will still answer research-related questions at the end of this presentation. So with UCDC and UCCS, it's kind of like a domestic study abroad program where you get to live, study, and intern in Sacramento or DC for a quarter and intern in the field of your choice. This year, this program looks a little different. Given the situation with COVID, the programs for this academic year will be remote. And if you're questioning, why should I do a remote internship program? It's actually a really good opportunity, and it still gives you the opportunity to build on your professional skills, especially because the program coordinators this year, our program coordinators in DC, have worked really hard on developing a special type of pre-departure workshops to really prepare you for remote work life. It's also a great thing to put on your resume and to talk about with future employers. When they ask you, how did you spend your time during the pandemic, it'd be a really great thing to say that, you took the initiative and you really challenged yourself to a remote internship opportunity. So this program is offered every single quarter, so fall, winter, spring, and summer quarters. Open to all majors, so you might hear from your peers that it's only for poli-sci or history majors. That is not true. It is open to everyone from all majors. I think people get that idea because it's located in these very political hubs, which makes it very popular with those majors, but open to all majors. You need to be a junior or senior standing. a 3.0 GPA required, and if you receive financial aid, that gets repackaged into this program, and so it applies. The program is organized into 1 weekly seminar, an internship, and optional electives. Because the program is remote this year, you actually have the opportunity to take UCSB courses still, so long as we're still remote and those courses are still remote, and take the UCDC courses as well. Whereas before, it would have to be only UCDC courses. So this year you get to do something a little bit different. The internship you do for 32 hours a week. So it's almost a full-time job, which is really cool. It's a really good opportunity for, especially for those of you who are maybe about to transition into the 8 to 5, 9 to 5 work life, good practice into what that looks like. Internships. This is a list of internships where students have interned in the past. It's definitely not a total and complete list, just a couple examples. Like I mentioned, anyone can do this program. The only requirement that we have for internships is 1, that it fulfills the hour requirement, and 2, is that you're doing substantial work. So we want to make sure that you're doing work that is, valuable to you, that you're getting good skills out of it, and that's pretty much it. So if you can find the internship that fulfills the hour requirements, and you can basically participate in this program. Typical cost for a quarter is about $13,000. I actually need to update that. So it won't be $13,000, apologies, because now that it is remote, we won't be requiring you to house in the UC Center. So typical cost for 1 quarter should be your tuition, your UCSB tuition, and units. So everything minus the housing. But regardless, prior to applying, we encourage you to speak to financial aid or anyone that's involved in your finances. And being sure to consider other factors that might affect your ability to participate in this program. So program benefits is contributing to change. Like I mentioned before, UCSB is very much focuses on theory. So it's a really cool opportunity when you're able to apply that theory and put it into a real world work setting, and you're able to see actual tangible change happen because of what you've learned. Application experience. I know when I was applying to jobs straight out of college, I think I applied to about 15 of them, 12 to 15 jobs before I landed my position. And I look back at the first application I wrote, compare it to the last application that I wrote, and my first one was really bad. And so through this application experience or through this program, you'd actually be applying to about just that amount, 12 to 15 different internships. The bonus here is that you actually get the help of our academic internship team in DC, and they work with students to review their applications, review their cover letters. So by the end of that experience, you're really well versed in how to construct these documents. So hopefully you don't go through the same struggle as me when you enter the workforce and you're able to just hash out these awesome resumes and cover letters. And then there's the work and network experience. Just because the program is remote this year doesn't mean you don't get the opportunity to do to have network experience. Like I said, some of these changes, the folks in DC are working really hard to have alumni panels. They're still having speaker series from professionals in DC. Through Zoom, of course, but that's something that is only programming that will only be available for UCDC participants and UCCS participants. So it's a great opportunity to have, not one-on-one, but like close group time with these professionals. And then exploring different career paths. doing an internship in general really allows you to have a practice run at what it is that you're hoping to pursue as a career. And it's a great way to learn whether or not you want to do that as, a full-time career. If you don't like the internship, it's a great opportunity to be like, okay, I need to step away from this and maybe go a different direction. And then if you love it, well, then that just further solidifies that that's the path that you should maybe take. So it's a great way to figure out your next steps. And here are just a few photos from students who have participated in the program in the past. Do you have anything else? Yes, I do. Okay, awesome. So now I can open this up to questions. Here is my contact information, Carissa Gomez. And if you want to contact our general information emails, you can do UCDC at ltsc.ucsb.edu or URCA at ltsc.ucsb.edu. And if you just want to Zoom call me, here's my Zoom link as well, which I welcome.
Thank you, Carissa.
Yeah.
I did have a question from a student regarding FRAP, and they wanted to know if they're able to apply for FRAP like after class, if there's any deadlines, and if they need to discuss research with the professor first. And they mentioned that they didn't find a link to apply for it on the main page.
On the main page?
For FRAP.
Oh, yes. So when you're applying to these positions, you're actually emailing the professor. So the contact information on the project posting, you'll use that information to contact that professor. Sometimes it can be a little intimidating to contact these professors, especially if you haven't done something like this before. So we have actually a lot of students reach out to us on, how to send an email to a professor, which it sounds, like, oh, an email, but it's actually like it's a thing. There's email etiquette, and so myself and also our peer mentors, we do help students in kind of constructing that first initial email. So if you find a project that you're interested in, but you're not sure how to, proceed with those next steps, definitely reach out to us and we can set up a meeting time to talk through how to set up that email.
That's a great point, because oftentimes, and I speak from both sides of it as a student and now on the other end of it, how we communicate can either open the door or just keep it closed, right? So, it's one thing to be professional, but I think that one of the good things that I've heard from other students mention about your services is how you allow for them to understand how to write their passions out on paper. Where it's not like you're hindering what their real intention is, right, in the research, but rather showing them how to describe that in a research jargon. And so I know that as a student, that was something that I really knew helped me out with like opening the doors to, like, once you got into the research field and you needed to interview someone, for instance, how you communicated to try to attempt to get an interview was kind of just a follow-up of all this other professional communication you've done before. So, it's about getting into the research world, but then it's also about how you continue to communicate after and forward. So that's a really great service you all provide to students. I recommend that they see you all whenever they come across that situation with me too.
Yeah, like we do provide templates as well, but sometimes it's just like, it's the best way to kind of go about it is just to talk it through, especially if you're a little blocked on what to include. At least for me, I find that it's helpful to talk it through with somebody, and that really helps with getting your ideas out on that email.
I had a student that asked about if there's an expected date or period for when UCDC might come back in person.
So it's been confirmed for the whole academic year, meaning fall, winter, spring. So there's still the earliest time that it could potentially be in person would be summer, but we are not anywhere near deciding that yet, unfortunately. Yeah, so you
Get
can
out and
maybe,
vote.
what was
That'll
that?
help. I was saying, get out and vote. That should help prepare us a little.
Definitely get out and vote.
Um, so
Thank
regarding research, I was going to ask you. You mentioned that you were a student as well, right? An undergrad.
mhm.
What were some of the benefits that you personally saw from the URCA department?
Yeah, so the funny thing is that as a student, I was not aware of URCA, but I am also just some background. I'm a first generation student, college student. And so I wasn't aware of a lot of sort of resources until actually my last year. My last year, I became an orientation leader, and through that training, they had us. It's very intensive training. We get we get talks from everybody in every department, and I learned so many different opportunities. And by then, I was already leaving. So I was a little, like disappointed. But I think that since then, that really inspired me to really try and help students um, learn about these different opportunities, because that's just a reality. There are so many programs on this campus that, especially to a student that does not know really how to navigate this huge institution, that a lot of things will go over your head, and you probably won't be able to do everything. But my mission is to at least make students aware that it exists, so they have the option to do it. Yeah.
That's a great point. I've just presented a project for them, a final project, and part of it is them outlining how they're what they envision, but how they envision it. And so
Mhm.
I can appreciate a lot of your presentation today and its relevance towards accomplishing some of that, not just as a project, but for them. And as you mentioned, I'm as a first generation student myself, and as a transfer, I encountered that also. And so I think that part of the communication I've had with students about these presentations is that you might be bored, because you went through orientations and you heard them, but it's always different when you can make it a little personal for yourself in these settings and ask a question in this group chat and say, hey, where's this? So that you can begin that process for yourself before
Mhm.
it's too late. Like you mentioned, before you realize, and then you're doubling back sometimes and either bringing on extra work in order to catch up, so to speak, or maybe waiting for the next deadline to come by. And so it's always a thing of preparation and right timing, I feel. And so just having the information up front, the way
Mhm.
that you described it, I think is a good starting point for them, at least moving into fall and trying to prepare for 2 years that they'll be here, at UCSB.
Yeah.
Let me check if we have. Do we have any other questions from students? I know that you all had research questions last week when we
I
were
have a
talking
question.
to Ondas.
Sorry.
So
I think Molly had a question, right?
Yeah. It's about ECDC. It's kind of like specific to me. So I already have like a political internship like here at home, and I know I applied to some DC schools, and so like I talked to them about the possibility of me like still working for them if I went to DC. So I guess my question is like, do the internships have to be like directly, like do we have to find them through the program, or like can we bring an option for an internship to the program and see if it like fits all the requirements? I don't know, does that make sense what I'm asking?
Yeah, you can definitely bring options forward. We're here to help you find internships, but the great thing about this program is that like if you're taking initiative and you're like looking for those internships yourself, you can definitely do that internship so long as it fulfills the hour requirements and the other ones. But yeah, you definitely don't have to choose from the internships that we provide or suggest to you.
Okay, thank you.
Cool. Do we have anyone else like to ask a question? Maybe clarify? I think that, oh, there we go. Are paid internships available?
Yes, they are. So this is another good thing about this program is that typically in academic internship programs, or like with if you're doing an internship apart from these sort of programs, you're only really allowed to do one or the other. So you're either allowed to either be paid or to receive units, one or the other. With this program, you have the opportunity to do both. So you don't have to do a paid internship, but again, like if you find one, then you can do it and you can get paid and get units for it.
And is that like an extension of work study, for instance? Or is this something that can be on the outside of work study as well?
I believe it can be independent of work study.
Because we've had financial aid present and also made a mention of possible some work study opportunities through research.
Mm-hmm.
So I just wanted to get a little clarification for us.
Yeah.
So do we have more questions? Okay. Are most students able to find paid internships, or is it primarily unpaid?
I would say that it's primarily unpaid, but the students who really make it a point to get a paid internship, like that is their focus, I usually see them get it. The reason that most students don't is that, I mean, your opportunities kind of open up if you're not singling out the paid opportunities, just because there are a lot more options if you are considering both. But if you're really set on doing a paid internship, I would say your chances are relatively high. Not only do you get the help like from myself and the UCSB team, but you're also getting help from our academic internship team in DC. So you have a lot of people on your side helping you and giving you leads. Yeah, so I would say if you're putting in the work and we're putting in the work, you have a good chance.
And even if you fall into like an unpaid internship, right? You can always, I've always found it easy to roll into a paid internship thereafter, like even in the same project. Sometimes the money just comes in because of the research you do, right? You uncover something, you discover something, a grant rolls in, and now you can get paid for it. And now, there's an easy kind of fold into that job too. So
we've had a lot of students who, once they complete their internship, like let's say they do it in spring quarter or something, they'll just continue on with the same organization, throughout the summer, or maybe it'll lead to like a full-time position with that organization.
Could you, kind of as an extension to that, could you speak about maybe what some alumni experiences, what they've shared with you about UCDC in terms of how it helps them with career or further internships post UCSB?
Yeah, so, well, one, just in general, having this program has been around for a while now, to the point where that, in DC, if you're not familiar with like that region, it's pretty like small when you really think of it. And so since our team has spent years and years building these relationships with these organizations in this small-ish area, our DC students, UCDC students have a really good reputation. So one, just being able to put that you're a UCDC student on your resume holds a lot of weight. And especially in that area. So if you're looking to end up, in the DC area or nearby, especially, a lot of organizations are aware of the type of students that we send out, which of course are awesome, amazing students, because why wouldn't UCSB students be awesome and amazing? So they're well aware of your capabilities and your skill level, and so it really holds a lot of weight. And so a lot of times students, like I mentioned before, our alumni, they're able to gain like full-time positions afterwards, either with their organization that they interned with, or because of that network, that organization is able to recommend them to a different organization, without them even applying for that position. It's just relationship building and word of mouth and all that. And so they're able to get those sorts of opportunities. A lot of students have ended up in this area afterwards as well. So working for, anything. You can work for nonprofits, think tanks. A lot of students, intern on the Hill with certain senators and Congress people's offices. So yeah, you can go many different directions.
Thank you. I know, especially right now, given how things are just at a standstill, and we're just trying to make the best of it as we can. It's these opportunities that within our network that extend to the students, and you got here, right? You're already UCSB students, and it's kind of like an awareness of what's available to them that I feel, it's important. And I'm glad that you were able to bring that side of things from a research component, right? Because we're a research university, and so it functions different than the community college or even some state schools. And it's good to know how you can start to conceptualize like a career or even just a whole other lifestyle based off of these experiences that they can offer, right?
Yeah, and actually, like oftentimes too, the two programs that I do, sometimes I think about it, I'm like, wow, these are kind of different programs that I run, but they do have moments in which they cross. There are a good amount of our students that participate in UCDC who do, like you mentioned, they do research work. They're doing research for like a lot of think tanks and that in the area, or there's been an instance too where a student has done research for somebody in their company who was brothers with a professor here at UCSB. So the student comes back to UCSB and continues the research with the brother. I forgot who it was, but I'm like, oh, this is a neat story. So
all about who you know.
Yeah, it's really like building up that network, and sometimes it happens really organically. Just exposing yourself to these experiences, exposes you to different people, and you just kind of domino effects after that.
Right. And one thing to clarify, I don't want it to make it sound like, you're at UCSB, so everything's going to be automatic when you make these connections. But, you're still going to have to put in the hard work. And when you go to UCDC, you're going to have to put in even more focused work. And so it's going to be one of those things where you benefit from the strength of your network so long as you follow through with your commitments. And so there's no reason to think you wouldn't, because you've made it this far, which is just, an encouraging point for you to continue to pursue these opportunities. So let's see if we have time for one more question, and then I know I'll let you dip for a little while, Carissa.
Okay.
Let's see. Does anyone else have a question? No. All righty. So how about we do this? How about we call the discussion today done, and then we'll continue discussing what research is and how it relates to you in our Thursday class. And so if it's okay, Carissa, I'd like to thank you for your time and for answering the students' questions.
All right, thank you so much. I'll see you later in a little
Yes.
bit. Yeah,
About 30 minutes.
about 30 minutes.
Bye.
Bye.
So let's see where we are. If all right. So how about we do this? How about we spend 10 minutes or so trying to see if there's any questions from the master plan, right? I briefly had a chance to kind of introduce that, but I know that some of you have probably had some time to sit on it and think about it. Do any of you have any questions on the master plan so far? One thing I want to add to all of the master plan conversation is after having the discussion presentation with URCA right now, it made me realize that the vision board is kind of set up in a similar way that it would be for you if you were to do a poster presentation, you know, where you're discussing what goals of research are and then how your intended steps were to follow through, right? The difference is that this is just kind of your proposal, right? And so um, if you think of it as a research community, we're always trying to present, right, what either the next stage of our research is or the next stage of our career. And so this follows that same conversation that Carissa was discussing regarding um, presentation of your own work, right? So, all right, I'm seeing, to clarify, we make a vision board and then we also make a question. So your vision board should be answering the questions, right? And then you're just presenting that on a short video. If you just want to see, the whole point of this is to have you create a visual. I know that it can be tedious, and if some of you, for whatever reason, just physically cannot, we can discuss that. But I really want you all to be able to present a visual in your video presentation. You will not be presenting your master plans. Unfortunately, we don't have enough class time set up for everybody to be able to present their master plans. However, if we do have some time on the last day of class and lecture, um, trying to work it out so that we can have at least half of the class available for students that do want to present. So if you do want to present, you know, there could be opportunity for you on the last class. Okay. Maybe we use individual printed sheets. Yeah, that's fine. You can print them out. It's you know, I used the printer sheet, just turned it sideways and created 3 different columns. So it's just, you know, it's what you have available to you, what is easiest for you to work with. And so that's why I'm saying, again, it's part of, you know, that mission of being passionate about something, but also how you communicate it, right? And it's kind of what we're talking about again from a research component. It's just expressing it, right? So you can talk about it, but at some point, even if you're a researcher, you have to put it down on paper, right? And then you have to present that. So, you know, it doesn't have to be crazy. Um, I'm not an artist by any means, but again, I'll go ahead and share my vision board next class, the one that I shared at the beginning of the session, just to give you all kind of a reminder of the example for what I was able to come up with. Okay. All right. So why don't we just wrap it up for today, and then I'll give you all the day in between to think about the master plan, come up with some questions about consideration of your own undergraduate research and some opportunities that you're thinking of pursuing or that you've thought about, somebody's told you about. Just kind of get your mind thinking in that sphere, because Thursday we're going to do breakout groups again, and it'll be a part of our general discussion. Okay. All righty. Y'all have a good one. I'll see you on Thursday.
Thank you.
No problem. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.